Hello, fans of the Perfection kerosene heaters. In a moment, I'm going to show you a trick that I've picked up that might help you when you're doing your restorations. I love these little heaters; they're so cool. This is the 725 model. This was the first one I restored. I found this in the barn of my father-in-law's property. After he passed away, I was kind of do some cleaning up and tried to restore this one, and it just was really a fun project. As I learned more about these Perfection kerosene heaters, I discovered the Firelight models. This is a model 725, I believe, and really cool, really cozy with the globe, so you get the light that comes off, and they just work really well. It's a shame they don't have some more of the safety features of today's modern kerosene heaters, but you know, if you're careful with them, they work really well and put off some good heat. So in a moment, I'm going to show you a third model that I just found at a antique shop, and how to address the wick that if it gets stuck. And just to show you what I mean, some of you I know are familiar with this already. This should work very freely, and then you can see there it is. The wick doesn't have to move much, but in some of these models that have been, or units that have been sitting around in a barn or in a shed for years, it gets stuck, and you have to be able to raise that wick to light it, and then of course to put it out when you're finished using it as a heater. So I'll show you in just a moment kind of one of my tricks, and be interested to see if that's helpful, or if some of you have any other tips on getting these things back into more working condition. Okay, so here's my third Perfection heater model. This one is the 1691. I kind of like this one because it has a little more of that Victorian look to it, with the legs. It's still the Firelight series with the globe, which makes it very cool. But here's the problem, is if you want to make it actually usable, here's the wick. You see I've taken some of the parts off, but it will not move. This little gear down in here is grabbing onto that metal sleeve, but it's stuck. I've managed to get the wick around the top here loosened up, but you can see that metal sleeve goes down further, and I'm thinking that between the metal sleeve and this upper cylinder that it slides on, over the years it's gotten some corrosion, a little bit of rust or something down in there. So in a moment here, I'm going to kind of show you a trick, and then we'll just see if we can get this thing loosened up a little bit. So what I've done is I've taken a plastic file folder, just made out of thin like vinyl plastic, and I've cut off a section. What I'm going to do here, again, see, it just doesn't want to budge. I'm just going to try to work this down between the wick. And I'm just going to try to work it all the way around here. I'm hoping that if there is some rust, that it's just surface rust, and it's just enough to cause a little bit of difficulty with that little wheel mechanism. And if I could just break it loose, you can see how far down that thing's going. And try to break it loose. Because if you're like me, I want to restore this to a usable state. I've seen where people have converted these heaters. See, that's tough right there. They've converted these into lamps. I want to actually use it as a heater. I'm going to try this narrower end here. There's definitely some debris or something way down in there. So I'm going to turn this off and work on it, and then I'll bring you back and let's see if it made a difference. So quick update. So this was getting, as you can see, it was getting buckled and getting hung up. So I had to go to plan B, which is this nice thin scale. It's rounded on the end, and I actually just started to insert it down in, and I actually had to kind of tap it all the way down as far as it would go, but the result was that now this sucker's moving. So at a later time, I'll take this out and see if I can capture kind of how bad the corrosion and the rust is down in there, but you can even see on the sides here just kind of how much junk there is. So before I do anything more, I think I'm going to try to get this thing lit and just see how it works. But finally got this thing moving. I'm so happy. So now I have the potential of a 1691 Perfection kerosene heater with the cool globe that will actually work. So what I'll do here, maybe it's a few minutes, the final part of this video, I'll just show it lit up, but I hope that helps. Using something, something much less aggressive like this piece of plastic. If the rust wasn't that bad, I want to use something that's much gentler, but then something that's very small and narrow and also smooth. So again, it's not going to chew up the inside of the burner. I don't want this thing to leak, obviously. So very cool little heaters. And let me see some of your comments on if this was helpful, you found it successful, and how to maybe get the burner part usable and restored so that the heater itself can actually be used as it was intended. So thank you. And there it is. I had to trim off a little bit of the wick that got kind of folded back as I was messing with it in the original, and it doesn't quite work quite like I want it yet. But there's that traditional, very kind of Victorian looking 1691 model actually working. Now this spring I can start the work of sandblasting all the all this rust. It's really thick and heavy. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet with this porcelain, because some of the porcelain is still good, but some of it's rusted away in some of these other areas. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do here. But very cool. So I just want to show you the end result. With just a little bit of patience and some finagling of a really thin piece of metal or something down in there, you can get the wick broken loose. And now you have a usable kerosene heater to keep a shed or a workshop warm, or just to add a little bit of atmosphere during a Christmas party, in your living room. So I hope this was helpful.